च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम् बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितम् धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैरेभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् दैवी ह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जनाः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभ तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्त एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थमहं स च मम प्रियः उदाराः सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः कामैस्तैस्तैहृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियताः स्वया यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विदधाम्यहम् सतया श्रद्धया युक्तस्तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च ततः कामान् मयैव विहितान् हितान् अन्तवन्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसाम् देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति मामपि अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते मामबुद्धयः परं भावमजानन्तो ममाव्ययमनुत्तमम् नाहं प्रकाशः सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम् वेदाहं समतीतानि वर्तमानानि चार्जुन भविष्याणि च भूतानि मां तु वेद न कश्चन इच्छाद्वेषसमुत्थेन द्वन्द्वमोहेन भारत सर्वभूतानि सम्मोहं सर्गे यान्ति परन्तप येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं जनानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ता भजन्ते मां दृढव्रताः जरामरणमोक्षाय मामाश्रित्य यतन्ति ये ते ब्रह्म तद्विदुः कृत्स्नमध्यात्मं कर्म चाखिलम् साधिभूताधिदैवं मां साधियज्ञं च ये विदुः प्रयाणकालेऽपि च मां ते विदुर्युक्तचेतसः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगो नाम सप्तमोऽध्यायः।
Hare Krishna. So we welcome once again participants for this 9th session on the course Life Lessons from Bhagavad Gita. We'll be reading the 7th chapter, Knowledge of the Absolute. So before I begin, I would request the participants to please put your proper names, because as you know, last week we had this major disturbance where we had to end the session and do all kinds of things. So please request all participants to change your names to your proper names, the Zoom login. I'll begin with invocation. Om Gnana-timirandasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhantamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivachadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are beginning the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. I had earlier told that we'll do the practical application, but we thought we'll keep it towards the end so that there will be a proper flow of sequence covering all the chapters. So this middle 6 chapters are emphasizing on Bhakti Yoga. The first 6 chapters on Karma Yoga, how to perfect our action. The last 2 chapters on Jnana Yoga, how to perfect knowledge. This middle 6 chapters on how to perfect our devotion. Because without devotion, knowledge and activity are not successful. So can you hear me and see my screen, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
So this chapter is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. We have relative knowledge, knowledge which changes with the time, place, circumstances. But there's something called absolute knowledge, which is applicable to all time, place, and circumstances. Now here Krishna glorifies knowledge about himself. Normally, if someone is glorifying about himself, we think he is proud of himself. But if that person is qualified for that praise, then it is beneficial for us to hear about his self-glorification. So in that sense, the glory of knowledge about Lord Krishna is very much beneficial to us. Now, Krishna is emphasizing the need about importance for hearing. Just like when we were a child, when we were newly born, we can't even see. Our other senses are not very active except the hearing sense. So similarly, sound is also the most subtlest of all the material elements. And that is related to ether, which is again subtler. So if you have to, all our senses become activated through hearing. And sound is the source of all creation also. Anyway, hearing reveals 2 types of knowledge. One is phenomenal and noumenal. Phenomenal means about this energies of the Lord, what we can experience. And noumenal means what is the cause for that experience. Many times, like for example, in this COVID, we could see the effects of the virus, but we could not see the virus, but it is so important. Similarly, we have experience of the world in which we are living, that is known as the phenomenal world, where things are changing. And that is, behind that is the noumenal, which is not changing. And another way of interpreting this is jnana and vijnana. Jnana means theoretical knowledge, and vijnana means realized knowledge. And this is about Krishna, knowledge about Krishna and realized knowledge about Krishna. And particularly Krishna says that realized knowledge is very rare. Why it is so, we will see. Now, the next few verses, Krishna talks about his energies. Before we understand a person, first we have to understand his energies. Just like the sun is there. I cannot go to the sun. Cannot know about the sun, but I can experience the heat and light. So the energies are our first access to the person who is the energetic. So if you want to understand Krishna, we have to first understand his energies. And material energy means energy which is changing its shape, form, manifesting, unmanifesting, again manifesting. So this material energy constitutes of earth, water, air, fire, and ether. So, and spiritual energy comprises the living entities. So what are these? We will see in detail. Now, Krishna is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer. What does he create? What does he maintain? What does he destroy? That is the material energy. As we said, it goes through this manifestation, unmanifestation, and again manifestation. So that has to be enabled by someone, and that is the role of Lord Krishna. Although we say Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, that is Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, are said to be the creator, destroyer, maintainer, but ultimately Krishna is the cause for that. And furthermore, Krishna is all pervasive, which means his jurisdiction extends everywhere, both in the material and spiritual realms. He is the essence of everything. Everything perishes or everything becomes unmanifest, still he can be perceived. And he is beyond the material modes. Material modes are the sattva, raja, and tamogura, goodness, passion, ignorance, which produce the world of our existence. Just like we mix yellow, blue, and red and create infinite shades, there is infinite variety in this material world, and that is caused by the three modes. And Krishna is the beyond that, which means he is not created by the three modes. And then Krishna talks about what is the importance of surrendering to Lord Krishna. Normally, nobody likes this word surrender. Surrender means we think we lost, we defeated. When we are defeated to someone, we surrender to that person. But here, surrendering to Lord Krishna is beneficial because we can regain our original identity. By surrendering to Krishna, we come back to our original constitutional position and we can function according to our swadharma, constitutional nature. Right now, the jiva is deluded by the modes, which means he thinks that he is the product of the three modes, because he thinks if I don't have this body, that's the end of it. So he thinks without these three modes, I cannot exist. But by surrendering to Krishna, one can transcend them. Transcend means he can understand his relationship with Krishna, who is beyond the three modes. Then Krishna talks about the four types of people who do and do not worship Krishna. So why four types of people? As we can see, there are three modes. When you mix these three modes, you can get broadly four. Anything is there, you cut it in three places, it will immediately form four parts. So like that, we have four gradations of people who do not surrender and who do surrender to Krishna. And those who surrender to Krishna or follow his instructions, they are magnanimous. Magnanimous means they have a broad mind, broad vision. And jnani is the best. There are four types of devotees surrender to Krishna. Among that is one is who surrendering with knowledge. Some people surrender with blind faith. Better than that is when you do something with knowledge. Therefore, Krishna is appreciating that person. And beyond these four types of devotees who worship Krishna, there is a pure devotee who is Ananya. That also we will see why this pure devotee is extremely rare. Now, then Krishna goes about explaining about the demigod worshippers, those who worship someone other than him. Because in India, especially, we think that there are many gods, 33 crore demigods. We have a choice. But the fact is there is only one God, just like we can have only one father or one mother. Similarly, we can have only one God, one scripture, one religion. But nevertheless, people have this tendency to worship demigods, and furthermore, they want have a God who doesn't have form. This is known as impersonalism. Personalism means we appreciate the quality, but not the person who possesses that quality. So there are demigod worshippers are said to be less intelligent. Why? That we will see. And their faith is given by Krishna. Even such people are encouraged, just like I saw in the third chapter. If someone is acting on a lesser platform, we should not discourage him, but encourage him to progress from there. Why do they worship demigods? Because they get quick material results that are perishable. Some people want perishable goods rather than permanent goods. So that is their nature. They want quick results and they don't care about the long-term goal. Now the impersonalists are even further unintelligent because without a body we cannot exist. We cannot function. We cannot achieve our goals in life. Then how can we expect a God to be someone with no form? Especially in some countries, you see the prime minister or president is constantly changing. So that country is said to be most unstable government. So if we have a conception of God, first of all, who's always changing or he has no form, now supposing, let us say there's a country with no prime minister, no president. So how can it run? So similarly, if we have a conception of God who doesn't have a form, then we are said to be the most unintelligent. And Krishna is not obliged to reveal himself to them. So some people may ask, why doesn't God come in front of me? If God is there, if so many things are going wrong, uh, if suffering is all around, and if he really cares and loves us, why is he not present before us? Because they have made up their mind that God does not exist or he has no form. So how can God come before them? Then in conclusion, this chapter talks about how to overcome delusion. So what is creating the delusion? Delusion means there's something called illusion and delusion. Illusion means something which is necessary, just like in the mirror. Mirror is an optical illusion. It makes you feel that someone is in front of you, but that is required. But delusion means the illusion has the wrong effect on you. So why that is? Because of Maya. Maya means something which does not exist. Of course, now that should be transformed to devotion to Krishna. Devotion means you, just like a cloud is there, the cloud is formed by the sun only. But if you go beyond the clouds, you can see the sun. Or if you have some knowledge, you can see through the clouds also. Similarly, we have to see beyond the Maya curtain of the just like previously they used to have what is known as a puppet show. The puppet is being orchestrated by the person behind the screen. I don't see the person, but the puppet which is dancing before me is doing its job because there's a person behind the screen. So one who understands that behind the Maya there is Krishna is intelligent. So why we should know about Krishna? Because he knows past, present, and future. Time is the destroyer. Time, nobody can conquer time except one who has surrendered to Krishna, because Krishna knows past, present, and future. Just like we want to have an equation with respect to time and solve past, present, and future. Krishna is beyond these three phases. Now all jivas are born into delusion. So what does it mean? Our nature is that without connecting with God, we succumb to delusion. And one who is sinless, one who has regained his constitutional position, one who comes back to his position of serving God, loving God, then he can only be sinless and can do bhakti with determination. First of all, to come to bhakti itself, one has to have overcome the sinful tendency. And having come, if he has to continue the process, then he has to continue to remain sinless or continue with devotion, uninterrupted, unmotivated. And that will give him the determination to achieve the goal. Now, in conclusion, Krishna talks about the person who wants liberation. Liberation means he's trying to solve the problems of life. So even such a person, even though he's trying all his best to overcome the problems by himself or with the help of others, ultimately, even Brahma, Shiva have to take shelter of Krishna. So what to speak about us? So now, then Krishna is giving a prelude to the next chapter, where Krishna talks about how he is the controller of the material elements, controller of the demigods and controller of the controller of all sacrifices, Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Yajna. With this introduction, normally we do this a lot of time on this introduction because sometimes we are not having sufficient time to cover all the verses, but at least the emphasis is given. And in the first 6 chapters, the living entity is described as non-material spirit soul capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. So as we saw in the second chapter, there is an elaborate discussion on what is the difference between the soul and the body, that's known as Sankhya Yoga. Then in third chapter, it was explained about Karma Yoga, what is the motivation for work. Then we talked about Jnana Yoga, transcendental knowledge. Then we talked about Nishkama Karma Yoga, or how to work with the detachment. And we talked about this Dhyana Yoga, or in the 6th chapter. But then Krishna concluded that steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, because ultimately Krishna is controlling everything, including the soul, the consciousness, mind, intelligence, senses, sense objects, and the dull matter. So when we concentrate our mind upon Krishna, Madgaten Antaratmana, or Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. Ultimately, without any connection, we cannot progress in life. So that connection has to be with the absolute truth. And that is known as Bhakti Yoga. So in this chapter, Krishna begins to explain the process of bhakti in elaboration. So earlier, Krishna spoke of attaining liberation by working with the detachment or renunciation in action. So how to offer the results, use the results for a higher cause. And now he will speak about devotion in action. The Nishkama Karma Yoga is also not perfect. Because no matter what work you do in this world, always there will be some element of imperfection. So, but in devotion, there can be no imperfection. So, provided it is done in the proper way under proper guidance. So, that's why Krishna is going to talk about devotion in action, where the action itself becomes devotion. In other yogas, you are adding devotion to your action, but here your devotion itself becomes the action or akarma. So, of all the limbs of Bhakti Yoga, Shravana or hearing about the Supreme Lord is foremost. So, how do we begin our devotion? First thing is simply hearing. Just like when we were born, we are totally helpless. We can't do anything, but we just hear what is going around us. And gradually, even for example, the child is able to pick up a language much faster than a grown-up adult because his hearing sense is very focused at that time. So there are many instances where the child in the womb also heard something and he remembered it throughout the life. So powerful is this hearing. And particularly that hearing should be about the Supreme Lord, and by which one can know in full. So what is the ultimate benefit of knowing this Bhagavad Gita? Then we get absolute knowledge. The living entities, material nature, and their manifestations. What does absolute knowledge mean? Knowing about the Supreme Lord, knowing about the living entities, and knowing about the material nature and how they interact with each other. Because when material nature and living entities come together, there is manifestation. And when they separate, there is unmanifestation. And when they come together again, there is manifestation. Now, in this 7th chapter, Krishna asks Arjuna to hear about him. So Krishna in this chapter is emphasizing the need for hearing, as you are all doing, or I also have to do. So why is that? As we saw in the 4th chapter, also Krishna told how this knowledge is coming through disciplic succession, where through oral reception. So we first hear something, and then only other senses will function. So here Krishna glorifies the knowledge about himself. This is something which we have to know. There is no choice. There are many other types of knowledge. Someone may know, someone may not know, or need not know. But this knowledge is absolute. In other words, it is to be known by everyone. So that's why Krishna is giving that knowledge to Arjuna. So how do we get this knowledge of Krishna? Not through our other senses. First sense is through hearing. Oh Arjuna, now please hear. Shrinu. How? By taking shelter of me, Madhashraya. So how should we become receptive to this hearing? First, we have to take shelter of him. What is shelter of him? As Krishna said in the 4th chapter, Tadviddhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevayam. should approach a spiritual master and who will give knowledge about scripture, just like the father and mother, they introduce us to God, and practicing bhakti yoga. In other words, the three steps are there: hearing, taking shelter, Adviti Pranipadena, Pariprashana, Sevaya, and Sevaya, practicing it. This theoretical knowledge is not enough. You have to practice this bhakti yoga. And yogam yunjan, with mind attached to me, maya sakta manaha. As we saw in the 6th chapter, Krishna is emphasizing the need for mind control. In other words, the mind has to be engaged. Mind is our friend if it engages properly, and mind becomes the enemy if it is not engaged properly. And then he says, you can know me in full. So what is the benefit of hearing from Krishna or hearing this Bhagavad Gita? We can get full knowledge about everything in this world. So what is that? That is both phenomenal and noumenal. Phenomenal means the world in our experience, and noumenal means the world beyond the experience. Nasasi samagram. Samagram means full knowledge, and asamshayam, free from all doubts. So the doubting soul can neither be successful in this world or in the next. So as we accumulate doubts, it becomes very difficult for us to function properly. So Arjuna is getting his doubts clear. Maya saktam anapartha yokam yunjan madashraya asamshayam samagram mam yata jnasyashi tachrinu. Here the word shrinu is very important. So what is complete knowledge of the Lord? Includes knowledge of matter, spirit, and the source and controller of both. Also, we saw in the 5th chapter, Krishna says that Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are same. In other words, even if you analyze this world, you can understand God. But of course, you have to be guided by the spiritual master in the scriptures. So if you want to be a scientist also, you have to become a devotee. Otherwise, it's not possible to be a perfect scientist. The Lord includes knowledge of matter, spirit, and the source and controller of both. Actually, it is not possible to know Krishna in full. Then what are we trying? So Krishna is going to give knowledge of the essential principles or facts about himself. What we need to know, that much he is giving. Just like you have a glass of water, how much ever it can hold, that much you can put in that. So what is our capacity, to that extent Lord is willing to give us. The Supreme God and his diverse energies, but the details are unlimited. Now, what is the difference between jnana and vijnana, or knowledge and realized knowledge? Jnanam teham sa vijnanam idam bakhyami asheshatah yajnatva neha bhuronyat jnatavyam avashishyate. Jnanam teham sa vijnanam. Phenomenal means about the material and spiritual energies. It's talking about the energy, shaktis. That is Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. And then he is going to talk about Neumenal, about my personality and sweetness. That is about the Ishvara. Idam Vakhyami. Vakhyami means I shall explain. Asheshata means in full. And then knowing this, Yajnatva, knowing this, Neha Bhuva Anyat, neither shall remain, nothing further shall remain. Jnatavyam avashishyate, for you to know. Jnatavyam means for you to know. Avashishyate means nothing shall remain. In other words, Krishna is giving Arjuna complete knowledge. It is not just about devotion, it's also giving knowledge about this material world. And now, particularly he says, greatness and sweetness of Krishna. Why is it that? Because we saw in the 2nd chapter, Krishna says, when you experience the higher taste, you can give up our attachment to lower things. Then our intelligence becomes fixed. So that is why we need to know about the greatness and sweetness of Krishna, because he is the origin of everything. Generally, jnana refers to theoretical knowledge and vijnana refers to realized knowledge. Realizing Krishna's sweetness is greater than knowing his energies. So Krishna has 4 special qualities which even Narayana or Vishnu does not have. That is, one of them is his sweetness. That's why Madhuram Madhuram, that song is there, how everything is sweet about Krishna. That's why his name Krishna means all attractive. So in this, Krishna displays Jnana in chapter 7, 8 and Vijnana in chapter 9 and both in chapters 10 to 11. Then Krishna talks about how this realized knowledge or Vijnana is very rare. This he's trying to emphasize the importance of the knowledge which is going to give to Arjuna. And Manushyanam Sahasreshu, that is among thousands of men. Actually, many people are human beings around us, but they cannot be considered strictly a human being unless they follow the Vedic principles. So they are said to be two-legged animals. So animals also, they evolve into human beings. But they are still to be considered an animal if they don't take to Vedic principles. But among them, out of many thousands among men, you can be called a man only when you are inquiring about the purpose of life. Atato Brahma Jignyasa. Having come to the human form of life, the first duty is to inquire about who you are, what are you supposed to do, what is your goal. So therefore, Krishna says, among them, thousands among them, Kaschid Yatiti Siddhe, one may endeavor of perfection and attain it. What is perfection? Perfection means to understand ourselves. That is the first level of perfection. So there are very few who are endeavoring for it, first of all. And even if they endeavor, whether they will really achieve that is a second point. Yadatam api siddhanam, of those who have achieved perfection, even if they have realized themselves, Kaschin mam veti tattvataha, hardly anyone knows me in truth. So that is still imperfect. Even knowing yourself is imperfect without knowing our connection with God and who is God, who is our controller, who control the material nature. Supposing you are very qualify as a graduate, but still nobody is giving a job. Then what is it's not complete. Similarly, you have to, after you realize yourself also, you should engage yourself in the service of the perfect. And that is, you have to have knowledge about Krishna and how to serve him and what is the purpose of that serving. So in knowing Krishna as he is, tattvataha, here word tattvataha is many times used, means incomplete. One realizes Krishna as the possessor of unlimited, inconceivable energies. First of all, Krishna has unlimited energies. Secondly, they are inconceivable. Even we don't know. There are many things in this world which we don't know. For example, how diamonds, they can cure some diseases. There are herbs which can cure diseases. But we don't know the mechanism. There are many things we can experience, but we don't know what is the underlying. The cause of everything as the jewel of unlimited auspicious qualities such as omniscience, omnipotence, and affection for his devotees. What is the primary qualities of Krishna? One is omniscience, all-knowing. Omnipotent means all-powerful. And affection, Bhaktavatsala, means he is very dear to devotees. Even one single devotee he doesn't neglect. And that is his Bhaktavatsala, which nobody can do. Even the demigods, they cannot reciprocate perfectly with their devotees. Now, what is the knowledge of Lord Krishna's energies? So Krishna is the source of both the material, which is material means something which is manifesting, unmanifesting, unmanifesting. And the spiritual, which is the source of that material. Everything within our experience is a combination of these two energies, the spiritual and the material or the phenomena. So both are required, but they have their relative importance. Now Krishna is first talking about his material energies. It is known as Apara Prakriti. Para Prakriti means it is transcendental, that is a living entity. Apara Prakriti means this is Maya Shakti or this Jada Prakriti. Prakriti has two elements, Jiva Prakriti and Jada Prakriti. So it is not conscious. What are they? Bhumi, Apo, Analo, Vayu, Kam. This five things. Bhumi means earth. Apa means water. Anala means fire. Vayu, air. Kam means ether. No? So, but modern students, they don't agree with this. But whether you agree or not, it is very scientific. In fact, in the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, there was a protest. They said this is pseudoscience. So, but it is quite scientific. We will not discuss it here. Anyway, this has, and then Krishna talks about mana, buddhi, eva, ahankara. That is mind, intelligence, and false ego. And Itiyame, altogether, these 8, Ashtada. Ashtada means 8. Binna Prakriti Ashtada constitute my separated material nature. What does it mean separated? Separated means it is not conscious or it cannot function independently. So these 5 gross elements are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So in Vedic science, everything is characterized by its qualities. What is earth? It has 5 qualities. It has smell, it has taste, it has form, it has touch, and it has sound. Water has one less quality. It doesn't have smell. Actually, pure water cannot have smell. Then fire has 3 qualities. It has form, it has touch and sound. And air has only 2 qualities, touch and sound. Ether has only one quality, that is sound. And then there are 3 subtle elements, that is mind, intelligence, and false ego. Mind means accepting, rejecting, and intelligence means discriminating power. And false ego means the false identity, the soul's misidentification with matter and his illusory conception of I and mine, mama, aham, mameti. So, although the spirit is transcendental to material nature, it identifies itself with material nature, and that is known as due to the false ego. And further, it says here, false ego includes its effects, the 10 senses. 10 senses means we have the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, namely the nose, tongue, eye, skin, and ear for smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, and hearing. Then we have the 5 working senses, hands, legs, tongue for speaking, and anus and genitals, reproductive and digestive system. So, but these 10 senses, they depend on the body we acquire. Supposing I am in a dog's body, I get these senses according to that body. If I am a human body, I have these 10 senses according to that body. So why? Because of our false ego, I think I am a dog. Then immediately I get a dog which has these kind of senses. If I think I am a some other living entity, accordingly I have this. Actually, I don't depend on these senses, but because I think I am the body and I think I'm a particular body, I get a particular set of 10 senses. So this is due to the false ego, ahankara. And then Krishna's spirituality is known as the Paraprakriti. It is transcendental to this combination of the 3 modes, and that is the living entity. So then Krishna says, Matta Parataram Nanyat Apareyam Itasmanyam Prakritim Vidhi Me Param Jiva Bhutam Mahabahu Edam Daryate Dagat. Besides this inferior unconscious energy, know that there is another superior conscious energy of mind. The living entity's nature is always conscious. Either it is materially conscious or spiritually conscious. Whereas the other energy, apara prakriti, is dull matter. The jiva is also called tatashta sakti or marginal energy of the Lord. We have the external energy of the Lord, which is not conscious, the internal energy of the Lord, which is the spiritual energies or his own energy, and then you have the marginal energy or the marginal because it is between the internal energy and the external energy. And also he has the choice either surrendering to the Maya or surrendering to Krishna. Although spiritual and although spiritual and can control the material energy, the jiva sometimes comes under the influence and becomes conditioned, forgetting his real spiritual position. Why is it to be marginal? Because sometimes he can forget that he is the spirit soul and he is the servant or related to God. He may think that I am body or I am depending on this material energy. Now Krishna is said to be the creator and destroyer. What is the creator and what is he destroying? He is creating the combination of this living entity and material energy. Although they are incompatible, just like milk, solids, and water, they are incompatible, or oil and water. But you can bring them together so as an emulsion. Similarly, Krishna arranges for this living entity to come in contact with the material energy, and he also separates the living entity from the material energy. All created beings have their source in these 2 energies. Everything that exists in this world is a combination of unconscious matter and the conscious spirit, and he is the origin and end of everything. So Krishna is the maintainer and the supreme person. So what is he maintaining? Having brought them together, having brought the living entity and material nature together, he makes them remain like that for a particular purpose. Mattah parataram nanyat, there is no truth superior. Paratar means superior. Mattah means me. Na anyat means there is no. Kinchit asti dhananjaya. Oh, dhananjaya means conqueror. Kinchit means nothing. There is no truth and no one superior to me. Then how are they? What is happening in this world? My sarvam idam protam. Everything rests upon me. Protam means the thread. Sutre means thread. Manigana means string of pearls. He is the one who puts them together. Everything rests upon me, the supreme shelter, as pearls are strung on a thread. Normally, when we see a pearl necklace, we don't see the string. But without the string, the pearls cannot form the necklace. So Krishna is the supreme maintainer of the whole universe. He is the one who is helping this incompatible living entity come in contact with the material energy for a particular purpose. Krishna explains how he maintains this world, and the next 4 verses, Krishna is not only the source, cause, and basis of everything, he is also the essence of everything. So, if everything else is not there, he still remains. And for instance, Krishna said in the 4th verse that the element water came from him. So, how do we experience taste? During this pandemic, some people could not experience taste. So that taste in power also is coming from Krishna, and he says that is the water. We are going to experience water because of this taste element, and especially when we quench our thirst, and he is the active principle essence of water. So that tasting power is one of the energies of Krishna. Now Krishna is explaining how he is all pervasive, how we can perceive him all around us, and understand that he is the essence of everything. So rasoham apsu kaunteya. Rasa means taste. Apsu means water. Prabhashmi Shashi Surya. Prabha means light. Shashi Surya means sun and moon. I am the light of the sun and moon. Pranava Sarva Vedishu. Pranava means Omkara, A, U, and Im. A, U, means the spiritual energy, the living entity, and the Supreme Lord. In the Vedic mantras means to regulate the mind. We have some sound. Shabda K. Shabda means sound. K means the another form of ether, come. And so some people argue, how do you say that sound is there? I mean, ether is there. By the sound element, we have to understand that ether is there. Paurusham Nrishu. Paurusha means ability. Nrishu means man. Punyo Gandha Pritivyamcha. Punya means natural. Gandha means fragrance. Prithivya means earth. I am the natural fragrance of the earth. And then Tejas Chasmi Vibhavasu. Tejas means heat. Vibhavasu means fire. And Jivanam Sarva Bhutesha. I am the life of all that lives. So, the existence. Bhuteshu means living entities. And Tapas Chasmi Tapas Vishu. I am the austerity of someone is able to perform an austerity. That ability is given by the Lord only. And Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam. I am the original seed of all existence. Just like you can see a huge banyan tree, the seed is so small, but it is having the code for producing the entire tree, which even a scientist cannot do. So he is the seed of all existences. Vidhi Partha Sanatanam. Vidhi means no. Partha, O son of Krita or Kunti. Sanatanam, living beings are eternal. Buddhir Buddhimatam Asmi. I am the intelligence of someone is very intelligent. But Krishna says, I am the source of that intelligence. You can see suddenly that person becomes the most dull person. There are many instances where he was considered the most intelligent, but suddenly he became dull. So which means that energy is withdrawn by the Lord. Now Tejasvinamaham. Tejas means power, prowess. Tejasvinam means powerful. I am the prowess of all powerful men. And Balam Balavatam Chaham. I am the strength of the strong. Balavatam means strong, strongest, and Balam means strength. Kama Raga Vivarjitam. So what kind of strength? You can see so many strength, people with strength, but they misuse that strength. So he says, such a person who's free from selfish desire and attachment, that kind of a strong person, you can appreciate that he is is a representative of Krishna. And because that kind of strength is beneficial to others, because it is free from selfish desire. In other words, he uses that strength to benefit others. And he is not attached to that. He realizes that the strength is coming from Krishna. Dharma aviruddho bhuteshu. Bhuteshu means living entities. Dharma aviruddha means which is not against, contrary to religious principles. Kamosmi Bharatarshava. The Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. Kamosmi means the desire. That desire which is not contradicting the religious principles, Krishna says, that is me. In other words, Krishna is encouraging to desire, provided it is not against the religious principles. So these 14 examples present within the three modes of material nature. This means these things we can experience in this world, which are the aspects of Krishna's material energy, and Krishna is beyond them. At the same time, Krishna says that he is beyond them, which means he is not dependent on them. We depend on his energies, and those energies are depending on him. Having said this, he is both the cause and the essence of everything. Krishna summarized that even the three modes of material nature that control this world are under his control. So how do we appreciate the role of Krishna in this? I can appreciate material nature, but how do I accept that Krishna is the source of that also? Krishna is beyond the modes, all states of being, because he is able to bring them together and again unmanifest and again manifest. All states of being or the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are manifested by my energy, Maya, but I am not under their influence. So he is able to produce something good, something passionate, something in ignorance. So without these three things, this world cannot exist. But he can keep them under his control. Knowledge about Krishna should lead to surrender. So why Krishna is giving this knowledge? So then if we understand that he is the source of everything, then we can surrender to Krishna. Supposing you see all the wealth around you, and then someone introduces the person who is the owner of the wealth, then we will directly go to him instead of trying to acquire that wealth. When we know that this does belong to someone, then intelligent person goes to the person who possesses. But ignorant of his greatness, caused due to attachment to his inferior material energy, is an obstacle to such a surrender. But if someone is only attracted to the energy and not to the energetic, just like Ravana, he was attracted to Sita, but he disliked Rama. Having said that about himself being distinct from his two energies, inferior and superior, Lord Krishna will now explain the importance of taking his shelter along with those who do not seek his shelter. In other words, Krishna says some people try to grab Krishna's energy, and some people take help of the energy to surrender to Krishna. So what is the surrendering to Lord Krishna means? The jivas, why they should surrender? Because the jivas are diluted by the modes. In fact, they are struggling with the three modes. Prakritistani karshati. That verse will come, the 14th chapter. So the jivas are diluted by the modes and thus cannot understand me. Although these three modes can help us to understand Krishna, these three modes are bewildering us. And who am untouched by the modes and inexhaustible. So Krishna cannot be exhausted by the three modes. We become exhausted because of these three modes. We can experience it, and we become touched. Even Tribir Gunamayer Bhaver Yevi Sarvam Idam Jagat Mohitam Nabijanati Mamepya Param Apyayam. Although these three modes of material nature are dependent on the Lord, and they will reveal the Lord also, right now our position is we become bewildered. Just like if you show something very sophisticated to a small child, he will not able to understand. Although it is sophisticated, for him it is very difficult to comprehend. Similarly, although the energy of the Lord is very sophisticated, for the novice it is bewildering. Just like if you take a person to something very exceptional, like he feels out of place because he cannot relate with it, although it is exceptional. So then Krishna says how to transcend this Maya, just like an aircraft is there, sometimes it goes above the clouds. So how do we transcend? By surrendering to Krishna. Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya. Krishna says this divine energy of mine. Why is it divine? Because it is perfectly following the order of Krishna. Gunamayi means it is constituted of the three modes, gunas. And Mama Maya, it is very difficult to overcome. Although it is there to help us, we are we are not able to benefit from these three modes. Mameva Prabhupada, but those who have surrendered to me, just like if you are trained, sometimes when you first try to learn car driving, it is a terrible experience because you just think it is impossible for me. But then once we accept the process, then we are comfortable. So, but those who have surrendered unto me, Maya metam taranti, they can easily cross over this Maya because Krishna has the Maya fully under his control. So, if we take shelter of Krishna, then we can overcome this Maya or benefit from this Maya. So, what causes the release from this bondage? Bondage means we are becoming affected by the three modes. Another meaning of guna is rope. Just like a rope is formed by intertwining three strings. The more you intertwine, the rope becomes stronger and stronger. So the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion in this world. So that's why it's very difficult to understand what is karma, akarma, and vikarma because of the influence of the three modes. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by someone who is not bound. So just like if you've fallen into a well, someone who's outside the well only can help you out. And the bhakti yogi can help one. Bhakti yoga can help us. So Krishna helps us through this yoga process. Just like a person outside the well has to put a rope for you to hold on to and climb outside. So Krishna helps us to approach him through this process of bhakti and gain release. Krishna, being the Lord of illusory energy, can release the conditioned soul from bondage. So yatra, last verse of Bhagavad Gita also, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanantara, Yatra Tatra Shri Vijyor Bhuti Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. If surrendering to Krishna is a solution to cross all the entangled material laws, then why don't all people surrender to Krishna? Immediately our mind goes to the exceptions. Instead of following the rule, we want to follow the exceptions. So that's what naturally, therefore, first Krishna talks about those who don't surrender to him. He is called Duskriti. Sukriti means one who is meritorious. Duskriti means they naturally want to be opposite to meritorious. Although Krishna doesn't like it because we are all part and parcel of him. So he's angry. That's why he's using the word Duskriti. Just like a father sometimes becomes angry with his children when they are not following him. So out of concern for them, he's calling them Duskriti. What are they? Impious people, who do not surrender to Krishna, who do not accept Krishna, who do not follow Krishna. Who are they? Tamam dushkritano muda. Muda first means is animalistic fool. He is behaving like an animal. What is he doing? Is work hard solely for material sense pleasure, which is available for animals. Even animals are happy fulfilling all their needs without much endeavor. But the human being thinks that he has to also endeavor for those things. Naradama, prapadyante naradamaha. So what is Naradama? Lowest among mankind. Although he's supposed to be more civilized, he is more uncivilized than the animal. So humans who lose their chance to revive the lost relation with God, they give up bhakti even after practicing it. Sometimes they may take to devotion, but they misuse it. So they are, in the name of devotion, they are misleading themselves and misleading others. Then Maya Aparata Jnana, those deluded speculators, they are using their intelligence, they're using their mind, but it's misdirected. Because we saw in the third chapter, the sitting place of lust is one of them is the intelligence. The lusty intelligence, just like we see the Russians are able to use the most sophisticated weapons because they have very intelligent, but they are misusing it. So that is deluded speculators, despite having studied the scriptures, their knowledge is stolen by Maya. So how a person is intelligent, he must have studied scriptures. Even Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, they had read the scriptures, so they were very intelligent. Yeah. So their knowledge is stolen by Maya. In other words, it is misguided. And they think of God to be an ordinary human. They try to put down God. Although they are exploiting the energy of the Lord, they don't give credit to God. And then the fourth category is this Asuram Bhavam, demoniac, atheists. They openly deny God. There are many successful people in this world. If you see the religion, they say openly, they'll say, I don't believe in God. And people follow them. Oh, such a great person, and he's saying there's no God. So maybe that's true. So they are known to be demoniac. So how do we know whether they're telling the truth? At the time of death, we can realize that they are fake. So they are envious of God. They openly deny God. Then Tamam duskritno mooda prapadyante naradama maya pratajnana asura asita. Then there are four types of pious people who sukritina, they are meritorious, who worship bhajante Krishna and eventually surrender. So by worshipping Krishna, gradually they surrender. Although they have not surrendered to Krishna fully, by following the process, they will eventually surrender. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritana arjuna artho artati jignasu jnani cha bharatashava. Artha means one who is distressed. There are many people who are suffering, but among them, the intelligent, they at least approach Krishna, you help me, like Gajendra or Draupadi. And then Jignasu means inquisitive. Someone is inquisitive. Okay, I see so many things wonderful in this world. Maybe there's God. There are many scientists who are there. They started concluding that behind this wonderful nature, there must be God. And the Sanakadi Rishis, who are the sons of Brahma. And then Artharthi means the seeker of wealth. Like Dhruva wanted a kingdom much greater than his grandfather. So he went to pray to God for such a kingdom and he got it. So he wanted wealth. And Jnani, the seekers of knowledge. Jignyasi means he wants little knowledge, and Jnani means he wants complete knowledge. Like Shukadeva Goswami, he went in search of Lord Krishna, and his father was able to give that knowledge to him. They follow the scriptural principles, social and moral codes, the rules of Varnashrama, and worship Krishna. And there are three types of devotees. Among devotees, there are categories. And Krishna talks about one is the Kevala Bhakta, unalloyed devotional service. It means his only motive is to please Krishna without any selfish motives. And he's called Ananya Bhakta. Ananya, no other motive. And Akinchana, unwavering. And Uttama, the highest, that results in devotee becoming an associate of the Lord with the five types of relationship he can establish with Krishna. And then there's the Pradhana Bhuti, which means is having devotion, but the devotion is mixed with tendencies for karma, jnana, and yoga. He wants some elevation in heavenly planets, or he wants to get liberation, or he wants to get power, mystic powers. But he is doing devotion, but along with the devotion, he wants this. And even these four categories of devotees, they fall under this. Then we have the Gunabhuta Bhakti, which means predominantly they are influenced by the three modes, and little bhakti they are doing. The bhakti is secondary for them, and whatever other activities they are doing, that is primary for them. So this is the karmi, jnanis, and yogis. They want simply elevation to heavenly planets, and for that, whatever little bhakti is required, they do, or they want to solve problems in life and they want to do bhakti, or they want to achieve something in life and they do bhakti. So bhakti is secondary for them. So then Krishna says that Jnani is the best of the four Shritas because he is trying to cultivate knowledge about Krishna. In that sense, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is important because we don't want to be sentimentalists. We want to thoroughly understand the importance of bhakti and how to do bhakti and why to do bhakti. So then I am very dear to him, for he is very dear to me. One who is endeavoring to understand Krishna, it says in the last chapter also, he is worshipping me with his intelligence. So, but still Krishna says all of them are magnanimous. At least they are on the right path. Then Krishna says the Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. But to come to this pure stage, Ananya Bhakti, after many, many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, all pervading, and surrenders to me by devotion. So what is the key? The key message is, it's very difficult to come to the path of pure devotion on your own. You have to take help from a devotee. And that's a devotee is very rare. The moment you get an opportunity to associate with a pure devotee, everyone, just like one sugar crystal, if you add to a sugarcane juice, the entire sugarcane juice will crystallize. Similarly, one pure devotee is enough to make everyone into a pure devotee. So that is very rare, and having got that opportunity, we should take advantage of that. And so, what is the destination of these Sukritinas? They will ultimately get the association of a pure devotee and gain knowledge about Krishna's and surrender to Krishna. And then, apart from these people who don't surrender to Krishna and those surrender to Krishna, there's another category. Who are they? They worship the demigods, and others are impersonals. So they are neither here nor there. So what is the problem? Then Krishna is talking about another category, that is the demigod worshippers. So why they are said to be less intelligent? Already in third chapter, Krishna said, why? Because they are overcome by their desires. Just like the honey is there, the bee goes into the honey and kills itself. So they are so much obsessed with their desires that they don't realize what is whom to go to for that desire and all these details. Kamesteste hritakhyana prapadyanti anya devata. They surrender. They think that someone else is God. Although Krishna is clearly telling him he is God, they choose to surrender to someone else, thinking why? Because they are obsessed with their desires. And uh, because they don't realize that the demigods are temporary. Even if they fulfill their desires, they are going to be temporary. And ultimately, Krishna is fulfilling the desires through the demigods. So all these they don't know, so they are said to be less intelligent. And they give, but still Krishna encourages such demigod worshippers because at least they are appreciating the demigods who are representatives of Krishna. And so he makes their faith strong in the demigods. And if they take advantage of that properly, then the demigods can also guide them to Krishna. Like Brahma and Shiva sometimes guide the person to Krishna. And then Krishna is talking about the impersonalists. In other words, they think that God doesn't have a form because the moment they accept a form of God, they have to surrender, and they don't want to surrender, and they don't want to surrender even to demigods. So, antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavat alpamedasam devan devayaja yato anti madbhakti yanti mamapi. My devotee ultimately reach my supreme planet. So those who worship the demigods, they go to the demigod planets. And those who worship Krishna, they come to his planet. So every place is controlled by one entity. And if you choose Krishna as our regulatory authority, we approach this attain his abode. So depending on the planet we approach, our lifestyle is governed by that. So depending on which demigod you worship, you go to that particular planet. Just like if you apply for the visa, whichever country you apply, that country you can go. But nevertheless, these demigods are the limbs of Krishna. They are facilitating our function in this world. But the impersonalists who think that God doesn't have a form, God does not exist, or God is also one among us, they are said to be the most unintelligent. Because they are going to struggle, as we will see in the 12th chapter. These impersonalists, they will struggle throughout their life. Why? Because for the embodied soul, you cannot worship someone who doesn't have a form. Just like if I say that you have a father, you have a mother, you have a brother, but they don't have form. So it is miserable experience. So then what to speak about God if you think that he doesn't have a form, and when you have a form? So that is an incompatible situation. Therefore, Krishna concludes that they are unintelligent. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyatye mam abuddhaya param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta. So, uh, so why does not Krishna reveal himself to such demigod worshippers and impersonalists? Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrutaha. So the Lord is covered by a yogamaya. Uh, just like we cover something. Supposing a person is not eligible to see something, we don't reveal it to him because he may get more disturbed. So then Krishna chooses not to reveal himself to such people because he knows that they will not accept him in that way. They don't want to accept him as God, or they don't want to accept that God as a form and that they have to surrender to him. So naturally, his energy covers him from them. So, but they are said to be foolish. Muda yam nabijanati loko mam ajamabhyam. That they don't realize that Krishna is unborn and infallible. So then, how to overcome this delusion? That is only possible to devotion to Krishna. Vedaham samatitani vartamani charjuna. Why we should become devoted to Krishna? Because he knows past, present, and future. Just like Krishna is telling to Arjuna that he spoke this Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, and when he also was present, but he has forgotten and he remembers. So, and then Krishna tells about how to perform Ichcha Dvesha. What is the cause for the delusion? Ichcha Dvesha. I like, I dislike. Dvandva Moha. Ichcha Dvesha Samutena Dvandva Mohena Bharata Sarva Bhutani Samoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. So, because of the bewilderment by the dualities arising from desire and hatred, one is continuing life after life in this material world. So, how to overcome this delusion? By determined bhakti. Yesham tu antagatam papam janana punyakarmana tedvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dradavrata. One whose sins are eradicated, which means one who has come to devotional service, who has acted piously in previous and present life, which means his devotion he has done previously and he is doing it now. One who is freed from the dualities of delusion. So, when you become a devotee, then you are able to surmount the three modes of material nature with the help of Krishna. He engages in my service with determination. He is able to perform much better and better devotion. And so, but there may be some people who are interested in devotion. There are different categories of devotees. One is desiring to fulfill Sakama Bhakta, Moksha Kami, Siddhi Kami, and Bhukti Kami. So all such people can come to Krishna and he can give everything and more than that. He can also give pure devotion. And so then what is knowing about Krishna? Krishna gives a glimpse into the next chapter. So why is it important to know Krishna? Because he is Adibhuta, governing person of all the material. Bhuta means material world. Adideva means controller of the demigods who are controlling these material elements. And Adi Yajna means the Lord of Sacrifice. He is the one who has to be pleased. Ultimately, even the demigods have to please Krishna. You know? And in full conscious to me, I can understand me even at the time of death. So the next chapter is attaining the supreme. What one should meditate at the time of death. So at that time, one should meditate on Krishna being the Adibhuta, Adideva, and Adi Yajna. So that begins with a very important verse. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna. So far, there are no questions. If anybody
Mataji,
has any question, Hanji.
Hare Krishna. There is one question. Pranam Prabhuji, does one have to take several births to become a true devotee and attain Krishna? Is it not possible in the first 7 janmas? How many janmas are there? One has heard of only 7 janmas.
Yeah, so this 7 janmas refer to going to this higher planets. But that is not sufficient. The devotion is going beyond this, the 3 planets, upper, middle, and lower planets. So because the guarantee is that if you go to Satyaloka or Brahmaloka, at the time of the annihilation, you are naturally promoted to the spiritual world, but still you have to wait for that to happen. But when you become a devotee, directly you don't have to wait for that 7 births. In fact, you can deliver your forefathers, your successors, and your present generation. All 3 generations can be delivered if you become a pure devotee. That is the power of devotion. But if you don't take to direct devotion, then you may, given the 7 lifetimes you are given to perfect your life, at least go up to Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, and he will take you back to Godhead. But that is going to be a long time. So why wait till then? If you want to go in this lifetime itself, then better take to pure devotion, and that is given in the Bhagavad Gita.
There is one more question, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Danvatnam. Very enlightening class. Very grateful for the very nice class. Can you please again describe the difference between illusion and delusion?
So illusion means it is required. Just like I told the example of a mirror. If I have to look at myself, I need a mirror. Sometimes you see a rear view mirror. So that is one kind of optical illusion. So in this world, we need illusion also. To understand something, I need illusion also. So the God has created that also. That is known as his Maya. But just like from the negative film, you process it and get back the original film. So like that, this Maya is also there to help us. So that illusion is also there to help us. But sometimes we become deluded. We become bewildered by this illusion. Just like Duryodhana was there. He entered into that palace of the Yudhishthira, which was built by Vishwakarma. And when he saw solid land, he thought it's water. And when he saw water, he thought it's land, and he fell into it, and people laughed at him. So, like that, because we don't have the proper knowledge, this illusion, it deludes us. In other words, instead of benefiting by this Maya, we suffer due to this Maya. Just like if I give you a sophisticated instrument, supposing I give you the most costly car and you don't know driving. So it is a painful experience because the first drive itself, you can kill someone and get into the jail. So likewise, this illusion can become delusion if you don't have the knowledge. So that's why we have to have this knowledge. In this, the moment we appear in this world, if you don't have knowledge about this world, the creator of this world, and what you're supposed to do here, it becomes delusion. Just like a diseased person is not able to see properly, his senses are not functioning properly, although it is given for a purpose. Okay, I thank you for, I hope I conveyed something. Anyway, Monday to Friday, we'll have some detailed discussion on these 30 verses. We invite you for them sessions also, and we'll meet next week. As I said earlier, I announced this will be a practical session, but we thought we'll do it towards the end because in between, if we intersperse, then the flow will be lost. And furthermore, last week we had that disturbance, and we were slightly jolted and upset our programs. In any case, we'll get back to you next week. Hare Krishna. So this chapter is known as confidential knowledge. Next chapter will be more confidential. Ninth chapter will be most confidential knowledge. So that's why these three chapters are very important. Because we are just devoting 1 hour, but we can devote a lot more time on these verses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'll end the meeting.
Yes.